Today I'm going to be telling my 9-year fitness journey story. When I first started learning about how to become fitness, how to lose fat, how to tone up, how to build muscle, I got the most value from literally going on YouTube and hearing people tell their stories. And it was through hearing these women's stories that I felt like this lifestyle was accessible to me. And so I would love to recreate that feeling for somebody else. So without further ado, in order to kind of like tell the story as concisely as possible, I'm going to try to break it up into 4 parts, starting with part 1, cross country and veganism and orthorexia. Growing up, I was a very average sized kid. I was a very sensitive, artsy, creative kid. So I was definitely not athletic at all, but also not overweight by any means. But alas, I turned 15. There was a very big pressure at that time to be stick skinny. And so a small desire to have a flat stomach quickly snowballed. Okay. It started the summer of 2014. I was super into YouTube, so that's kind of where I went to find my answers. And I stumbled upon this lady called Freely the Banana Girl, but she preached raw till 4 vegan, where you basically only eat raw fruits and vegetables until 4 p.m. And then after 4 p.m., you can have a giant carb-loaded dinner. But I'm talking I would eat fruits and vegetables all day. I would have 8 bananas for breakfast, and then I would have tangerines for lunch at school. I don't know how I wasn't bullied, honestly. It was so weird. And then for dinner, I would come home ravenous, and I would eat a tray of potato fries that I baked in the oven. And I didn't even salt my food because I was convinced that salt was bad. Basically it just showed her skinny body on camera. That's kind of how she sells the lifestyle. And she's look at me, look how skinny I am. You can eat a shit ton of food and lose weight. You just have to be raw till 4 vegan. So that's exactly what I did. Coupled with running, I joined the cross-country team, not because I liked cross-country, but because it was a very convenient way to over-exercise. Because I was committed to this cross-country team, I had to go to practice, you know what I mean? So what I used to do was I would wake up at the ass crack of dawn and I would go for a run. Go to school. After school, I would go to cross-country practice. And then most days I would walk home from school. I also walked to school. If I was feeling crazy, I might even run at night. I was definitely abusing exercise. I was definitely abusing veganism as a way to undereat. And it was definitely catching up to me. At the age of fucking 16, I dropped 15 pounds in a month. And at that time, nobody knew any better. Everybody thought that I was super healthy, that I was disciplined, but I definitely had developed orthorexia, to the point where I was very much afraid of oil, afraid of salt, afraid of sugar. And I created these rules around food that kept me very strict and militant. And I kind of used veganism as basically my disordered eating beard to basically hide the fact that I definitely was having a disordered relationship to food in order to lose weight. Now at the time, I didn't realize that I was doing this. I think subconsciously I did, but yeah, my friends, they kind of make fun of me now. And they tell me how annoying I was when I was a vegan, how intolerable I was because I was so holier than thou. I had definitely turned into a little cunt. I wasn't paying attention to the fact that I had lost my period for 3 years after that year or so that I was raw till 4 vegan. I had started developing acne on my face, and I attributed this to how when you go vegan, your body purges and cleanses itself, and so you're gonna feel shitty at first. There was literally a time when I fainted in a Chipotle, which was so embarrassing. My hair started thinning. I went to my pediatrician, and she told me that I had lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. And she was like, what's up? You're underweight now. And when she told me that I was underweight, I couldn't hold back a smile because I was yes, I'm finally skinny enough. You know what I mean? I couldn't sustain this for very long. And this leads me into part 2 of my story, the rebound and binge eating. I was okay, what the fuck am I doing? I hate cross country. Why am I doing cross country? And so as I transitioned out of the cross country team, I also started to kind of transition away from raw till 4 vegan. I stayed vegan, but I was moving more towards cooked food vegan. We see this a lot with people who yo-yo diet. If you've ever done any type of restrictive dieting and exercise regime, there is often a rebound. I started binge eating. I gained like 40 pounds. So I had lost 15 pounds and then I gained back the 15 and then I gained 25 more because my body was like, no bitch, we're not gonna do this again. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was engaging in a restriction and binge eating cycle where I would like binge eat. I would eat to the point of physical discomfort. I would be like, fuck, why did I do that? And then I would try to over exercise to make up for it. Like one time I think I binge ate at night. And then I went for like a 3-hour walk in the middle of the night as like a fucking 17-year-old. Like I could have been fucking abducted. And I remember like I told one of my friends that I did the next day, like thinking it was like totally normal. And they were like, what the fuck? I didn't realize that I was engaging in disordered behavior at the time. I remember I didn't understand why I gained all the weight back. Like I didn't understand why I was thinking about food all the time. I didn't understand that thinking about my body and how much I hated my body, thinking about food, I didn't realize how much space it was consuming in my mind. Until one day I was like, dude, is it normal how much I'm thinking about food? And I actually Googled, is it normal to think about food as much as I think about food? A eating disorder quiz ended up popping up for me. And when I took that quiz, I literally scored 100% on the quiz of like, yes, bitch, ding, 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 you have a fucking eating disorder. And I remember sitting there with this information and I was like, this can't be right, first of all. Like I was kind of in denial. I was like, that's weird. Like I'm not like that. Like I'm not a girl with an eating disorder. Like I don't get mental health issues. Like that's just not who I am. So I thought that maybe it was like a fluke. And I remember sitting with it and being like, I can't tell anyone about this. Like, but the thought was like marinating in my head. And in like 2016 was also when I started getting exposed to the fitness space on YouTube, like Whitney Simmons, like Nikki Blackketter, Jasmine Garcia, Meg Squats, Jeff Nippard. It was really starting to grow, the online fitness space. And I started hearing these women tell stories similar to mine, how they used to do excessive amounts of cardio, how they used to restrict how much they ate. And it was through learning how to calorie count and through learning how to lift and follow a program that they were able to finally see the results that they wanted to see. But when you take any type of extreme measures to lose weight too quickly, it doesn't fucking last. Like I gained all the weight back. And so I kind of just started obsessively consuming fitness content. I was like lifting here and there, but I still wasn't ready to really address my disordered eating. And so it was difficult for me to create a consistent routine in the gym. So I kind of just stayed this way, binging and over exercising and binge eating and under eating. And I maintained this all the way through high school until I finished high school, and I took it with me to college. And I also like became really stressed in college, and that kind of also perpetuated binge eating because I was like using food for comfort. And that leads me into part 4, which is what I like to call like the start of my healing. By the time it was 2019, it's the summer of my sophomore year of college, I had been restricting and binge eating and still struggling with orthorexia. And on top of that, like I was really stressed in college. I was just so bloated and inflamed. Like you can see it in my face looking back. But I had still been consuming fitness content since high school. I'd been like 3, almost 4 years now that I had been learning about fitness. The body positivity movement was on the rise, like hearing people and how they recovered from their negative relationship to food. Most prominently in my mind was Stephanie Buttermore in 2019. She came out publicly with her all-in journey, where if you don't know Stephanie Buttermore, she did bodybuilding, and she basically came out with a video where she was like, hey, I've been struggling with what I'm going to call extreme hunger for the past several years, and it feels like no matter how much I eat, my hunger is insatiable. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like me. Like I feel like I have insatiable hunger. Like I feel like I could always eat. And basically she attributes this to under eating for extended periods of time. And there is this method called the all-in journey where you basically go in and you eat all the foods that you want as much as you want. And the theory is that you can teach your body how to trust you again. Because you're eating enough food, your body doesn't want food as much. And so she documented her journey, and I was like, fuck, I want to do it too. Like I had enough of my binging and restricting, like feeling so stuck inside of my body. Summer, going into my junior year of college, I decided to do like a social media cleanse, detox. I was like looking at beautiful bodies. Does not make me feel better about myself. I don't want to compare myself to other people. So I was off Instagram and social media in general. I literally took myself off of all media. I cut out like Instagram, Snapchat. I don't think TikTok was a thing yet. YouTube. I literally remember that I would go on my phone and look at the news for entertainment because I was so bored. And the whole point of this challenge was to be bored. I wanted to give myself the space to just be with myself. To occupy my mind, I decided to start reading books that addressed my binge eating disorder, and I decided to start journaling a lot and documenting the process. At the time, I didn't really understand what I was doing. It just felt like the right thing to do. I don't know how to explain it. So I started reading books. The book that really sticks out to me is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. The reason why I read that book specifically is because it was free on Amazon Kindle. That book started teaching me about awareness and mindfulness, which are two very important things that you need to get over a binge eating disorder. And then along with that book, I would literally Google like body image journaling prompts. I would literally read the book samples that were available. Like you can download a book sample before you buy a book on Kindle. And I would read binge eating books, just the little samples and the little bits that I was learning about binge eating. Hey, the secret to not binge eating anymore is to, number one, figure out what the root is. Like, why does the way that you look weigh so heavy for you? Why do you care so much about your appearance? Why do you believe that that is the most important thing about you? And then also removing the guilt that I felt when I ate was really important for not triggering binges, and then actually eating enough food and needing on a consistent cycle enough food was also important for avoiding binge eating. So over time, I started healing my binge eating disorder. On January 1st, 2020, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start lifting, and this time I'm gonna lift because I love myself. I'm gonna lift because I'm worthy of being the strongest, sexiest, most badass version of myself. And I'm just gonna prove to myself that I can be consistent with something. That when I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. And every other time that I had started lifting in the past or working out in the past, I was only doing it because I was desperate to change the way that I looked. This time I was determined that it wasn't gonna be about that. That I was worthy exactly as I was, that I loved myself unconditionally. This time it was gonna be about getting strong as fuck. And that's exactly what I did. In 2020, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna prove to myself that I can show up for myself every single day. And showing up at that time, it literally just meant showing up to the gym, showing up to a workout, showing up to a yoga session in my room. It was just proving to myself that I could take this time for myself to move my body in a way that felt good. Watched a Matt D'Avella video. It was like giving like tips for how to form a habit. So what he suggested was you get a habit calendar, and I put it up on my wall where I could see it when I wake up, and every day that I stuck with my habit, I crossed out the habit on my calendar with a big fat juicy black X. By doing this, I could visually, tangibly see how far I had come. Because if all you can see is how far you have to go, dude, it is so much easier to quit. Like, it is so suffocating to only think about how far you have to go. Whereas if you can see how far you've come, the words that kind of reverberated in my mind was, I didn't come this far to only come this far. And that was really addicting to me. Like, it became like this game of, okay, how much longer can I keep this up? Can I do one more day? One more day. Coupled with that, I also followed the 2-day rule, which there was basically this research study that came out that was like, if you're forming a new habit, skipping the habit 2 days in a row greatly increases the chances that you're not gonna continue with that habit. So I tried my best not to skip the habit 2 days in a row. So I could skip every other day, but not 2 days in a row. And I tried my best to stick to this rule. Obviously, sometimes you can't always stick to it 100%, but that's just the intention that I set for myself. And it worked. For the whole first month of 2020, all I did was I would show up to the recreation center at my university, and I would walk around the track, or I would go for a light stretch. And I had a friend at the time who was also on a fitness journey, and so like it was nice for us to hold each other accountable. And then starting in month 2, I got a Stephanie Buttermore lifting program because I didn't know how to make my own at that point, and I started following it. And then slowly but surely, I just started trying new stuff. Since I had been like consuming fitness content like a little crackhead for the like past 3 to 4 years, I had like been lifting on and off, I kind of had a good idea how to lift, how to write my own program. And so slowly over time, I got better and better at lifting and stronger. And I learned mind to muscle, and I learned how to train to failure, and I learned how to eat protein and about creatine, and I learned all the stuff. And it was just such a more positive experience than I had ever had prior. Every single time that I tried to work out or eat better in the past, I would always go too hard, too fast, and I would do it with one and only intention of losing weight, changing the way that I looked, because I fucking hated myself. This time around, I believe that the reason why it worked for me was because instead of focusing on running myself into the ground and eating like a hamster, I focused on eating food to fuel my strength. I focused on getting strong as fuck. I followed a program, and I did it because I fucking loved myself. I had done all of the healing to heal my binge eating disorder, and it was just about feeling better in my skin. And for the first time in my life, I finally started to see the changes in my body that I had been looking for, and that is just so fucking addicting. And that leads me into part 5, kind of where I am today. I've kind of just been lifting and eating a shit ton. I never really paid attention to macros from 2020 up until 2022 because I come from a disordered eating background, as you know, and so I didn't want to re-trigger old habits because, you know, bad habits die hard. And so I was very wary of calorie counting. And, you know, I'm not even gonna lie, I tried a couple times between 2020 and 2022 to count calories, and I just didn't have my mind right. That is until the end of 2022, I decided that I wanted to do a 12-week cut because I had built so much muscle from 2020 to 2022, but honestly, I kind of wanted to get leaner. I wanted to reveal the muscle that I had built, and I felt like I was healed enough from my disordered eating thoughts and behaviors that I could engage in calorie counting responsibly. So that's exactly what I did. November of 2022 through 2023, I did a 12-week cut. I was able to lose 12 pounds in 12 weeks. It was super successful. I think what allowed me to execute a really well done cut was because I went into the cut with zero expectations. I was like, my goal is to, if I'm lucky, lose half a pound to 1 pound per week. And I just want to prove to myself that I can stick it through for 12 weeks, no matter the outcome. And so in the past, I think because I was like, if I didn't see the weight budge in like 2 weeks, I would freak out. This time I was like, I just want to stay consistent with the calorie counting for 12 weeks. And I did. And that's how it worked for me. Introducing macro counting correctly and responsibly really was game changing for me and my overall physique. Is it completely necessary for health and well-being? No, especially if you're like me and you're coming from a disordered eating background, but it has, in my opinion, really changed my physique. And today I'm actually 4 months into my first bulk ever, 4 months into a 6-month bulk. I'm working my way back up in my weight. I'm looking to gain about 12 pounds, 6 to 12 pounds in this whole bulk with the intention of gaining a shit ton of muscle mass, mitigating fat gain, and I'm feeling the strongest I've ever been. In 2024, I plan to start a cut, and that's kind of my story. I didn't get super into detail with the like eating disorder side of it, but I totally can. If anybody wants to hear about that, I'm more than willing to talk about how I worked through my disordered eating, but that's kind of my story. I don't know if you could tell, but the first 5 years of my journey was just fucking up a lot and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. I could never stay consistent. And so if you're kind of stuck in that starting and stopping cycle, just know that I wasn't immune from it. Like, I was very much in that same boat. And finally, what helped me find something that worked for me was moving away from doing exercise and eating well as a way to punish myself and use it as a way to celebrate my body, celebrate what my body can do, as a way to build myself up and be strong, right? You can't hate yourself into a body that you'll love. You need to love yourself into a body that you'll love. And that's kind of what changed everything for me. This shit takes time. Like, a body transformation takes time. Shortcuts will always backfire. I did a shortcut when I was fucking 15 years old, and it backfired for me, and I struggled with disorder eating for 7 years. You know what I mean? Just for me to do it the right way in my 20s, and I'm about to be 4 years into my lifting journey, and I feel like I'm just now starting to see the progress that I want to be seeing, because a good chunk of our fitness journey is just learning how to eat properly, learning how to train really hard, so we can teach ourselves how to begin to see those real results. And even then, building muscle is really hard, a lot harder than losing fat. It's that muscle that shapes our bodies and gives us that beautiful, like, snatched waist, like big butt, chiseled arms that everybody seems to be after. 9 years, bitch. 9 years, and we're still chugging along. Here's to 9 more. Hope you guys like this video. Hope this was helpful for you. If it is, please give it a like. Please comment down below. Share it with your friends. Share it with somebody who you think needs to hear this story. And I'll see you next time. Bye.